Awesome. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today for WIS Next Gen Presents Discover Sports Tech. It's important to note that although your faces are not public and we cannot see your names, please know that this webinar is being recorded. Women in Sports Tech is a global nonprofit organization with the mission to drive growth opportunities for women in the sports tech industry and introduce students to the wide and exciting variety of careers in the sports tech business. On today's WIST Next Gen webinar, our goal is to inspire young women like all of you to continue the STEAM classes you love and encourage your continued participation in the sports you're passionate about at the same time. Today, we have our WIST Next Gen team along with Cheresse Thornhill, Design Director for School for Experiential Education and Design, S.E.E.D at Adidas. Cheresse, thank you. We are thrilled to have you with us here today, and thanks for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Awesome. So we'll quickly introduce our WIST team. Shiv, if you'd like to go first.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Shivy. I'm a junior in high school currently and one of the co-founders of this new initiative. Currently, I'm also the founder of an engineering design program called We Engineer Innovation, or We Innovate for short, and I'm also a club and high school softball player. I'm really excited to spread the concept of sports tech, not just to whoever is viewing this webinar live, but also to anybody who will be viewing it after. And I feel like it's really important to abolish the myth that athletics and technology are on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm really excited for amazing women and men like the speaker we have today to inspire younger generations to pursue a career in sports tech.
Awesome. Thanks, Shivy. Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Hanowich. I work at a sports analytics company called Catapult Sports. So I'm on their sales team and I'll actually be transitioning to marketing, but just really passionate about this space. I was a student athlete at Clemson on the rowing team. So it's just really, really awesome to be connected to this group and just inspire young women.
Thanks, Lydia. And I'm Sydney Dodson. I'm a student at the University of San Francisco Sport Management Master's Program. And I also currently work as the social media specialist for my program. I am a WISC 2020 fellow where I just wrapped up my summer internship as a data analyst with Zoom. So I'm super excited for WISC Next Gen's initiatives. Please feel free to submit questions in the chat as we'll have a Q&A portion of the webinar much later. We are very excited to dive into these questions and hear more about your career journey, Cheresse, and to get to know good advice for students joining us here today.
No, I'm excited.
Beautiful. Great. Thanks for the intro, Sydney. And Cheresse, echoing Sydney, really, really excited to have you today. So we'll start off with some guiding questions, just talking about your background a little bit. So the first one is, could you introduce yourself and then talk a bit about the field you work in and how you were inspired to pursue a career in sports tech?
No, sure. So I'm Cheresse Thornhill. As it was stated before, I'm the design director for the S.E.E.D program at Adidas. And my background is really in footwear design. So a bit more about myself. I played basketball growing up. I always loved sneakers, sports, art, design. And I was fortunate enough to learn that there was a place within our industry where all of the things that I love converged. And I found that in footwear design. And growing up, I went to a high school called DASH, so Design and Architecture Senior High in Miami, Florida. It had a great product design program. And that's where I really learned more about this field and the fact that I can have a career in it.
Oh, very cool. And did you play sports growing up? Or you said basketball?
Yeah, I played basketball. I'm only 5'4.5", so I was not going to be making it into the WNBA. But fortunately enough, there are so many other opportunities. I think, you know, when one door closes, another one opens. But sport and tech, they're so intertwined. I think technology allows us to go further in our sports careers. And then also when you bring art and design into it, there are so many intersections and so many jobs that exist at the intersections of those different, those fields. So there's so much more to be done there.
Absolutely. And what has your journey taught you about sports tech as a broad field?
Yeah, so like I said, I actually in high school learned about design, and then when I went off to college, I majored in industrial design. And with that major, I learned a lot about manufacturing. I learned a lot about how technology is actually enabling better manufacturing. And so that's a bit about just this ties in your question around technology and how, as a creative or as an artist, when technology comes into play, it allows me to unlock my creativity and my design skills in a whole new way. Because there's so many more advancements in manufacturing, it allows our products to be so much better than they would have been without technology. So that's just a big piece there.
Oh, very cool. And where did you go to college?
I went to college for creative studies in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
And that actually led into my first role. The first company I worked for was Nike. I was there for just shy of 10 years. And I really was able to work on a lot of, again, basketball footwear, which is really exciting to me. I was able to work on a lot of Kobe's China footwear early on in my career. And then I also worked on running shoes, cricket shoes. I got a chance to travel to India and the UK and really learn more about cricket and sports. But it's really great to see that athletes are pretty much the same anywhere in the world. They're all, you know, very aspirational. They want to improve. You know, they're looking for that competitive edge, and they're looking for the best technology to help them become the best players they can be. So so that was great to learn that there's that foundation for all athletes across the world in different countries.
Absolutely. My company Catapult, we work with I think over 50 countries, and it's really interesting to learn more about cricket. Actually, I never really watched it before, and just the different analytics you can get for that sport.
Absolutely.
Good. And then my last question is, how, when you were younger playing sports, how did those experiences impact your work life today?
I really learned the value of team. I think it's tough. I think as creatives and designers, we're so kind of stuck in our own head. I mean, we spend a lot of time honing our own skills and talents individually, but playing sports, you learn that you can't win a match or a game by yourself. You really have to rely on your teammates. And coming into the footwear industry and leaving college, in college, it was very singular. It was all about you and yourself and your own portfolio and your work. But when you come into a corporation, you're really working within a team environment, because you have to, there's a portion of the products that you're responsible for, but then you have teammates that you have to pass the projects over to complete and bring everything to life. So I think playing sports really taught me the value of teamwork and how important it is to play your role really well, but also to rely on your teammates and empower your teammates to be the best that they can be.
Absolutely. It helps you learn how to work with different personalities.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, those are some amazing answers. But I did want to just veer off course really quick.
Sure.
Would you mind telling me a little bit more about your time in India? That's super, super cool that you got.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was working in emerging markets at Nike. And so we focused on India, Argentina, Mexico, and Brazil. And so we were actually designing products for the people in those countries, and we were manufacturing in those countries as well, which was an interesting way to balance out the portfolio at the company, where they were also creating products coming out of China. And I loved my trips to India. I traveled to Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, Punjab, I think at one time, and also had an opportunity to go to Taj Mahal. So we went on a lot of trips to meet with athletes and then go and work on the footwear. But we also got an opportunity to see a lot of the country and a lot of the sites. So one of my favorite places to go. I love Indian food as well. So.
How did your work in all those places kind of impact how you see diversity?
In a lot of ways, I think, you know, I grew up in South Florida, which is a very diverse city. I grew up in Miami specifically, so it's very diverse. And I think traveling around the world, I was able to really see more about or just become aware of the things that actually tie us all together versus our differences. Because I think, you know, regardless of our race, our gender, you know, the way in which we choose to express ourselves, we're all still human. And there are a lot of things that are very common to humans. Like we all want to be loved. We all want to give and express love. We all want to become the best versions of ourselves. So there's so much more that ties us together than separates us if we really choose to focus on those things.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. That was just super striking to me that you mentioned all of your travel, and I just wanted to hear more about it.
Right.
But just kind of focusing more a little bit on, I guess, like high schoolers and education. What classes and extracurriculars in high school and college do you think really prepared you for where you are in your career and where you've come in your journey?
Yeah, I was always focused on just being a footwear designer. I was just I had a singular focus, and I really tailored all of my education towards that. I'm wishing I would have looked a bit more outside of my major, because I feel like now the way in which our industry is changing and growing, there's room for specialists, but also you want to be able to have more to pull from. Like, I wish I would have taken psychology classes to learn more about humans and why they make the decisions that they make, and learning more about business as well, like business structure. So I think knowing more about people, anthropology, psychology, also business classes, and margins, and all the things that have to do with generating a profit, I think all are relevant things when you want to work within a business, or if you want to start your own business. All those things you need to know.
For sure. How did you deal when you were younger with uninspiring coaches or teachers? And kind of how did you take control of your own learning when you didn't think you were getting that outside force?
Yeah, I can think about when I was a kid, but I still face those challenges now as an adult, because those things never change. It never ends. You're always going to encounter people who have different perspectives, of maybe come from different backgrounds and just have different motivations. Not everyone's motivated and inspired in the same way. And there are a lot of people in leadership roles that maybe shouldn't be, but that's not something that you can control. I think, I've had tough bosses. I've been in tough situations, especially being a woman in a male-dominated industry. And I just say that I really focus on just having a level of excellence, a standard of excellence for myself, regardless of who's in front of me or who's leading me, because they won't always be there. And I think that the earlier on that we learn, we have to be a self-starter, self-motivated, and have a vision for our own selves in our career. It won't matter so much who's leading you or who's around you, because you'll be really focused on being your best self and also achieving your own goals. So at that point, it's really important to have mentors, people who are in your corner and who can help you along your path, and don't focus so much on the people who are roadblocks or negative forces in your life. Just kind of push them aside and they'll go away eventually.
Right, of course. Obviously, that's amazing advice, but I feel like maybe some of the girls my age might have some confidence or self-esteem roadblocks kind of standing in the way of really looking for those opportunities. So what are some goals young girls looking to go in your field should set for themselves as of now to kind of get to where you might be in your journey?
Yeah, on the confidence piece, which is what I talked to my team. We have a group of 6 female designers on our team, and we're preparing them to enter full-time roles within the brand. We talk about confidence a lot, and it's always something that needs to be trained and needs to be invested in. And I think the best thing we can do for ourselves is really looking inside, looking inward, learning more about ourselves, and mastering ourselves and the things that we need to become really great at. But also understanding that you're one of one. There's no one else like you. There's no one else who has your unique skills, background, perspective, and that's very special. And the more that you can learn what makes you great, focus on your strengths, and grow those, the better off you'll be. So, maybe it's less about looking at other people and more about looking inward and really understanding that your uniqueness is your superpower. Now focus on how do you grow in
Right,
that area.
of course.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of going back to young women and young girls in this field, do you have any, I guess, outstanding advice for women who want to innovate or kind of form a space in sports tech?
For sure. Find your passion. So what's that niche space within the industry that you're super passionate about? It may not be the area that's trending. It may not be the most popular area, but it should be the area that you're really passionate about, because it won't be an easy road. And if you're really passionate about that particular area, you'll have the energy to keep pursuing it, and then just become the expert. There's never been a time, I think, in history where we've had this much access to this much information.
Right.
So really, like, do your due diligence, research, there's so much that you can find out, and really focus on excellence, focus on making yourself the expert in that space, so that you have some authority to really stand on.
Yeah, no, that's really important, like building tangible skills and stuff like that.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Those were some amazing answers.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. First, I would just like to shout out some of the WIST fellows that are on our call today. And we have quite a bit of people that are interested in footwear design and biomechanics. In particular, we have one, shout out to Genevieve. She's on the East Coast, and she recycles litter along the coastline into shoes, which is really awesome and interesting.
Oh,
so kudos to everyone doing awesome things.
Awesome.
So what are the 3 biggest things you wish you knew in high school that you know now?
Oh, there's so many. I think number one, I want to go back to owning my uniqueness and understanding that what makes me is really valuable. And I think that's not something that we hear enough about, especially in high school or as young women. We don't hear about you're unique and special. We always hear about, here's this archetype that you need to become. But, we should actually be looking inward, because we're unique and we're one of one. And those are the things we want to focus on bringing out, because the world needs what we have. I'd say that would be number one. Number two, going back to what I said before about team, I think sometimes we can become really singular focused in ourselves, but it's really important to leverage team, community, network, and mentorship. I think we all need mentors, but we can also all be a mentor for someone else coming up. And then the last one is just my favorite, just making learning a lifestyle. You'll never really arrive. I think at every stage you want to constantly be challenging yourself and learning new things and adding those new tools to your toolbox. So those would be the 3 things that I would really call out.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so important, because those are things that we overlook or don't even notice as young women. So what is a challenge you have experienced as a minority, a Black woman in a male-dominated industry, in sports and in design and combined, and how have you overcome that?
I'd say just being heard. I think sometimes it's really hard for us to be heard in a room with so much space. And I think for me, it really made me focus a lot on my point of view and making sure that my point of view was rooted in facts, not necessarily my own whim or something that I feel, but I've done my research and I can bring that factual information to the table to say, I believe we should go in this direction, and here's why, because I've done this body of research and I can stand on that. I think even if I'm the only one in the room who has that point of view, I'm always confident in it, because I know that I've done my research and I've done the work and I've made an educated guess. So I would say that's a big thing.
Yeah, awesome. And we talked about self-confidence and how to boost and achieve that, but how can girls identify what they want to do and aspire towards something?
I would say explore. I think sometimes if we haven't done something new, it can be kind of fearful, but we won't know if we like it or hate it or love it or despise it unless we try it. So I'd say try everything. And at this age, this is a time to really have fun and try new things. And I think we'll be able to identify what we like or what we hate more than what we actually like. But I think if you try a lot of things, you'll find that, oh, I don't like that so much. But then you keep trying things and then you'll find something that you actually love. And I would say also, once you find that, going back to making yourself the expert in this space. So really like diving deep into, if it's anthropology, like know everything there is to know. If it's technology in a particular field, or if it's footwear design, learn about how the foot works, you know, learn about your competition, who's out there, other designers, what are they doing? There's so many portfolios on Instagram now. And I've known a lot of people who's actually gotten hired from their Instagram handles. So, you know, things are changing. Yeah, there's a traditional route through, you know, a design college, but now there's so many people that are doing great work on their own that they don't necessarily need, you know, the support of a college or university. They can bypass, you know, that system and get connected in with hiring managers or designers that work within the brand just off of their Instagram handle. So create as much work as you can, make sure you share it and get it out there and get eyes on it.
Yeah, to that note, it's something that we have to like keep reiterating and has not taken a complete grasp of, is that, you know, we're evolving and marketing is changing, and you can literally, like, it's a complete digital world right now, and you know, people are still advertising from billboards because they think that it's working, whereas, you know, almost, well, not everyone, but a lot of people, if you look to your right when you're driving on the highway, everyone's looking at their phones. They're not even looking at the road, but they're looking at their phones. What makes you think they're looking at a billboard, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a time for innovation, and that's what we're doing with S.E.E.D. We've discovered that Black women make up 0.05% of the designers in the athletic footwear industry, and we saw that as a problem. I was the second Black woman female footwear designer at Nike in their entire history, and I started my career there in 2007, so not that long ago. And my best friend was actually the first, and she started in 2004. So, and since
Awesome.
then, there's been a handful. So we understood that we really have to shift, you know, the systems that are at play, and we created S.E.E.D. So it's a school within a corporation, and it's a 2-year program. The first year is all instruction, year 2 is all internships, but at the end, it will lead to a full-time role within the brand. So we're really bypassing, you know, the college systems, and we're educating our designers so that they can move straight into the brand. So we're still recruiting. So if anyone's interested, just email cschool@adidas.com. And, you know, minimum age is 18.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll open it up to the audience. Oh, okay. We have a question. All right. What skills do you feel like you specifically need to have beyond your awesome creativity?
Being teachable. I think I said it earlier, making learning a lifestyle. You have to be teachable because you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think if you go into every situation with an open mind, a hunger for learning, and being able to take feedback, so don't take it personal, but take it as an opportunity to become better. That can really lead to opening a lot more doors. Yes, creativity is important. Being able to have a lot of grit and determination and commitment to the process, because it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of learning, and just trying out things, like being curious, asking a lot of questions. Don't accept things as the way that they are, but question them because they could work in a better way. So those are just some of the things I think is really important as a designer.
Yeah, I would say, like, through the WIST fellowship, it's definitely given me that type of mentality, in terms of trying everything, and everything that you do is a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
I had never stepped into analytics, but I was interested in, and I had a brief exposure to it the year prior to my fellowship, and I like what I was working with, and I hope to continue to work towards, or being well versed in analytics at some point. And I now go with the adaptive mindset of, you know, like, I'm going to apply for this job, but it's more than anything a learning experience. I'm going to apply, I'm going to do some informational interviews with the hiring manager, with connections that I know who have been in this role before. If I get it, that's awesome. If I don't, I can get some feedback on what I need to work on and
Sure.
keep going from there.
Data points, right? That's what
Yep.
you're really looking for.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Make learning a lifestyle. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's important what you mentioned, Sydney, just making sure you like push yourself to connect with others and you can always learn something.
Sure.
Awesome. Next question we have. Can you speak to a time you felt like you failed, but actually totally learned so much from that experience?
So many times. I had this moment my sophomore year in college. I ended up in a studio that I really wasn't fond of. And I decided to not actually do the project in the studio, but do my own project. I wanted to do a footwear project, and I was actually in that course supposed to be designing a Disney exhibit. And I chose the footwear. I don't think my professors liked that very much. And I actually ended up failing that studio and was in danger of not graduating on time. But the project that I did do on my own was a triathlon shoe that actually helped me get into Nike as an intern. So I wouldn't advise going that route, but I think it just speaks to the level of conviction and belief I had in myself and my desires. And I was going to work really hard to bring that to life. So I actually ended up going off to that Nike internship, and it counted as a credit. So I was able to graduate on time, thank God. But, you know, there are so many instances where I did fail, but I think there are ways to fail smart. Understanding that, okay, I'm going to fail at this, but it's really so that I can have this other thing that's really important. Because we can't do everything. You really have to pick and choose, but you have to take those calculated risks. And yeah, you may fail in one area, but you do it with the understanding that it's going to pay off on the back end.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to think of failure, reframe how you look at it.
For sure.
And then could you tell us more about S.E.E.D at Adidas?
Sure. So I'll say it again. So S.E.E.D it's School for Experiential Education and Design. And we're focusing on footwear design. And we have actually done a lot of cool projects this year. We're in our pilot year. And we have 6 designers, all women of color, between the ages of 20 and 24, that we're preparing to enter into the footwear design industry. So this year, we actually partnered with Pharrell Williams. So he's our sponsor, along with Pencil Footwear Design Academy, led by one of my great mentors, Dwayne Edwards. And we're actually, it's more of a internship, but we're infusing education into it as well. And we're working on real products. So usually when you're in college, a lot of your design projects are kind of make-believe, right? Like a Disney exhibit that won't ever really be made, but you've done all your research, you've figured out who your consumer profile is that you probably created through Google searches, and you just manufacture it yourself. But our advantage is we're actually making real products with real timelines, with real money and real margins that will actually go out into retailers and consumers can buy it. And I think that's just the best way to foster learning, where you're learning against real goals. And so those are some of the projects that we've done this year. So in the first quarter, we worked on a graphic t-shirt for Pharrell, Something in the Water Festival. In our second quarter, we worked on a Superstar, a colorway that we did that's going to go to market in January. We worked on another footwear collection with the Originals team that will go to market next year. So this is all in line with what our designers will be doing in the real world when they get a real official job in another category. So that's our whole plan, to just prepare them and upskill them so that they can move into a full-time role within 2 years.
Very cool. And then going off of that, how do you stand out to a brand like Adidas when applying when there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other applicants?
It goes back to something I said earlier around finding your unique point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to pattern yourself after anyone else who exists in the industry, because a brand doesn't want another of what they already have, right? So it really goes back to looking inward, like I said before, discovering what you're really passionate about, what's your unique point of view on products. Are you really passionate about the earth and sustainability? Make sure that there's a thread of that in all of your work and the pieces that you do in your portfolio. Are you really focused on a certain demographic of people? Make sure that you make research your point of view. Are you really passionate about making and prototyping? Then make sure that that's always your point of view. So I think it's just finding your unique perspective and then bringing that to the forefront, even infusing technology. Like now most people have, or some people have a 3D printer at home if you have the resources and you're making a lot of things at home. So, or you have a sewing machine or other tools. So leveraging all the things that you have to your disposal and making sure it's unique and different.
Awesome. You mentioned how important it is to be an authority at work. Is that something you knew how to do right away out of school, or did you learn this over time?
Oh, definitely learned it over time. You kind of also have to fake it until you make it. And I'm sure I'm sure you've heard about that. You really have to talk yourself up, right? If you're going to do a presentation, you may be nervous. And what do? Many of you play sports, right? So before you're going out on the field or on the court, what do you do before you go out on the court and get ready? Do you have music that you like to listen to that kind of gets you hype and upbeat? I had a presentation this morning and I was listening to DJ Khaled like right before I went and did my presentation, right? So you kind of got to, again, kind of go back to knowing yourself really well. How do you get into the zone? You know, what do you have to do to make sure you're ready to go out there? But you really going back to owning your point of view, making sure that you research, that you feel really confident in your work. And then just remember you're the authority, right? It's your own work. You know it the best. No one knows it better than you because you created it yourself. And go out there and really own it. But it takes practice. And fake it till you make it.
There you go. I'm kind of in that stage right now. Just, I guess I'm more self-aware because I feel like when I was in the corporate setting, my mindset at first was very different than I was as an athlete. And then just kind of going back to that same mentality.
Yeah, it goes back to sport. We were talking a bit about that before. There's a lot of comparisons there, especially if you're working in a corporation that's focused on sports. That atmosphere, and most people in sport corporations have been athletes and have played sports before, so they understand that as well. And there's a very strong competitive nature within this industry, especially between the different brands that really kind of head off a lot. So feel free to really tap into those things that you learned in your time playing sports and bring that into the workplace and bring that into how you show up every day.
Definitely. Yeah, sometimes before my sales calls, I'll listen to a song, just get pumped up.
Yeah, for sure. You got to get
creative.
Yeah, you got to get your energy up.
Yep, for sure. All right, I think we'll end. I think we have time for one more question from the audience. What is the most important thing about leadership to you?
I actually came across an ebook the other day. It talked about servant leadership. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard that term, but it really focuses on the people that you're leading and making sure that you're servicing and serving them, in turn becoming a better leader. Because you also, I've had a lot of bad bosses, and we talked a little bit about that before. And I learned who I didn't want to be as a boss and as a leader. And that really helped me be different when I came into a position where I was leading everyone else. But it's really about focusing on the needs of your team. You want them to be the best. Like the designers on our team, I want to see them win. I want to see them be their best. Therefore, I need to be my best for them. So I think in a lot of ways, it's about serving, the people on your team to be a better leader.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love that. I think, actually, was there one more question that we missed? I think we did this one. Have you ever faced rejection over and over for an idea that ultimately did succeed?
I think so. I'm sure I've had a few of those experiences. I go back to that project in college where I failed the studio, but ended up getting the internship and thus getting into the brand and the industry. But I think moving into a corporation, I had to really upskill myself in a lot of ways. And there were projects that I really pushed through, or I was trying to push through as much as possible. But then I had my marketing counterparts who also had the last say, and I had to give in and compromise in some areas. So those were great learning experiences. But I think I'll just, on that question, kind of talk more from a broader perspective around my own career. You know, especially during COVID times right now, a lot of people are being laid off. A lot of people are really rethinking the careers that they're in, and maybe trying to pivot or shift into a place where they maybe have more skills, or are in a place where there's a different type of work that they really want to do. I think for me, I actually resigned from Nike before I think I got to a point where I maybe wouldn't have been any more of an asset to the team or to the company, because just my heart wasn't in it. And I really want to teach and mentor and do more of that. And I wasn't able to do it in my current role. So I ended up resigning and then moving back to South Florida to pursue that. And then S.E.E.D came along, this opportunity came along, which really emerges my love for design and my love for education and teaching and mentoring. So I think if you are really focused on, go back to knowing who you are, knowing yourself, and pursuing that and becoming excellent in it, you won't have to go out and search. I think people will reach out and will seek you out because you become an expert in that field. So
I like that, leaning into your uniqueness and not getting distracted. I feel like sometimes it's easy to lean into other voices, but just it's very good. I think that's all we have, but this was awesome, Cheresse. We can't thank you enough. Great advice.
No, this was fantastic, and we definitely cannot thank you enough for spending your time tonight and sharing your journey with us. And we also hope that everyone listening will stay in touch with WIS Next Gen in the future and listen to more of these interviews and webinars in our series. And make sure you tell your friends about it and sign up to be in our WIS community at womeninsportstech.org. And we hope you join us someday in the sports tech industry. Thank you again, Cheresse, for your amazing answers to all these questions.
Thank you. I'm on LinkedIn, so look me up if you want to stay connected.
Yeah.
Thank you.